Wednesday in Tryon, North Carolina, and it's higher ground. Yesterday we started a three-part series on the three things that we all need. And God takes care of each of those three things. Yesterday we looked at love, and we realized that all need love. And so we found out that God provides us with a wonderful love, and that we just need to accept it. Today we want to take a look at restrictions. And you say, we need restrictions? Yes, we do need restrictions. You see, not all things are good for us. And I'm reminded of that story about the lady that was on the train, and she was so wealthy she had a nanny for her child, and she spoiled her child terribly. And when the child started to cry on the train, she turned around to the nanny and she said, give that child whatever it wants, but don't let it cry. And a little while later, the child began to cry even louder. And she turned around and she told the nanny, she said, I told you, give that child whatever it wants. And finally, after a few minutes, the child was just screaming at the top of her lungs. And the woman turned around very indignantly to the nanny and said, I told you to give that child whatever she wants. The nanny said, yes, ma'am, she wanted the wasp on the window, and I let her have it. Well, not everything that we want is what we need. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12 says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. Well, it's not exactly in context that all things are lawful, because obviously some things are prohibited by the law. Not only our civil laws, but by God's law. But what it really means is that there's nothing perhaps within what God allows that is always profitable for us. Not only that, but we know that there are many things that God says are wrong that are definitely not profitable. Listen to 1 Corinthians 10:23. All things are lawful, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful, but not all things edify. That means it may be all right to do certain things, but they don't really edify. They don't really glorify God. They don't really make us look very good. They may be lawful for us to do, but they're not good for us to do. So now we look at 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 14 and 15. For the love of Christ controls us, having concluded this, that one died for all, therefore all died. And he died for all, so that they who might, those who live may no longer die for themselves, but for him who died and rose again on their behalf. Yes, the love of Christ should control us. The love of Christ should let us see those things that are profitable and not just lawful. It's important that we realize that when God gave us his do's and don'ts, they were not for him. They were for us. When we do the things that God says to do, we find fulfillment. We find gratification. When we stay away from the things that he says to stay away from, we avoid grief, sorrow, pain, and we don't miss out on anything. You see, for a long time I went around thinking that the things that God said don't do and to do were a burden that I had to try to bear in order to please him. But in a little bit of time and maturity, I found that the things that God says for me to do and the things he says for me not to do are for my good. You see, they may all be lawful, but they're not all profitable. And so if we want to really enjoy life, we not only need the love of God, but we need his restrictions, because his restrictions are the ones that will give us fullness of life. The things he says to do will bring us joy, fulfillment, gratification. The things he says to stay away from will keep us from having pain, sorrow, grief, and the penalties of sin. It's your thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day. By the way, the drought's over up here. We got rain all day today. I guess it's some of the empties coming back from Florida.